spark that ignited a movement, the hashtag #EndSARS protests in Nigeria. It was a typical Tuesday morning in Lagos, Nigeria, on October 20th, 2020. But little did anyone know, a spark was about to ignite a movement that would shake the very foundations of the country. The spark was the killing of a young man named Khalid Johnson by officers of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS. Khalid was a 36-year-old entrepreneur who was shot dead by SARS officers in Lagos. The news of Khalid's killing spread like wildfire on social media, and soon, Nigerians from all over the country began to demand justice for Khalid and an end to the brutality and corruption of the SARS unit. The hashtag #EndSARS began to trend on Twitter, and soon, protests erupted in cities all over Nigeria. Young people, in particular, were at the forefront of the protests, demanding an end to police brutality and corruption. As the protests grew in size and intensity, the Nigerian government responded with force, deploying soldiers and police officers to quell the protests. But the protesters refused to back down, even in the face of violence and intimidation. They continued to demand justice for Khalid and an end to the SARS unit. The protests continued for several days, with protesters blocking major highways and disrupting economic activities. The Nigerian government eventually announced the disbandment of the SARS unit, but the protesters refused to accept this as a victory. They demanded more fundamental reforms, including the prosecution of SARS officers who had committed human rights abuses and the establishment of an independent body to investigate police misconduct. The hashtag #EndSARS protests marked a turning point in Nigerian history as young people began to demand more accountability and transparency from their government. The protests also highlighted the deep-seated corruption and brutality that had become endemic in the Nigerian police force. As the protests came to an end, Nigerians began to reflect on the lessons learned from the hashtag #EndSARS movement. Many realized that the struggle for justice and accountability was far from over, but they also knew that they had taken the first step towards creating a more just and equitable society. And so, the hashtag #EndSARS movement became a beacon of hope for Nigerians, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always a possibility for change and transformation. To stay informed about rich and complex history of Africa, to discover the fascinating stories and events that have shaped Africa's history, follow Chronicles of African History for engaging content, and like, share, and subscribe to stay up to date. Thank you